So a new chapter, and we're actually going to be doing a little bit of review. We're going to be taking a look at some things we've already looked at just under the guise of functions. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at lines again, but we're going to be taking a look at them as linear functions, not just linear equations. So let's just kind of go back to the archives and recall, right, that back in section 2.2 we have three ways that we can represent a line. And the first way was what's called the general form, right? That was ax plus by equals c. Again, kind of a not very useful form, but it is one of the forms a line can come in. The one that we're real familiar with, and I think we all enjoy, is the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And then perhaps one that's new to you guys, or maybe the one you don't like, is the point slope form. So we learned that there are three ways to represent the equation of a line. But now that we're talking about functions, right, of these forms, which one basically will best be the best fit for function notation? Recall what we're doing is we're replacing the y with f of x. Well, if I replace it here, it's still going to be messy. Right? And if I place it here, we're still subtracting y1, so it's a little messy. But if we use the slope-intercept form, right, we get f of x equals mx plus b. So that is probably why that form is pretty famous as well, because it ties in so nicely with functions. And so we're going to basically be talking about linear functions. So with that idea, what I have are several linear functions down below here. So let's go ahead and just review, find the slope and find the y-intercept, and then we'll do part B. Well, again, the slope is the number part that's standing right in front of the x. So for this line, the slope is 3/2. And then if we were to let x equal 0, we're going to get -1. So the y-intercept for this would be -1. Here, the slope is -3/4, right? And if we let x equal to 0, right, the y-intercept would be the point 0, -5. Here the slope, the number sitting in front of the x, is a number, right? In action, that's 2/1. And then the y-intercept is at 0, 1, right? Let x equal 0, 1's left over. Here the slope is -4. Again, in terms of a fraction, that's -4/1. And the y-intercept is 0, 3. And then this guy, we have to be careful. There's no x. But that's basically the situation when we have a horizontal line. And in that case, m is equal to 0. And of course, 0, 2 would also serve as its y-intercept. And same thing here, right? There's no x, so our slope is equal to 0. And this would be crossing the y-axis at 0, -3. So hopefully that serves as a little bit of review from section 2.2. We're just now, rather than having a y equals mx plus b, we have an f of x equals mx plus b. Okay, some new language, or really it's not new, it's just a reinforcement of what we learned. For these functions, which ones are increasing or decreasing? And that has to do with the slope, right? If we're increasing, that means my slope is positive. Our graph is on the way up. If we're decreasing, that means our slope is negative, which means we're on our way down. And I probably should also say if we're constant, that means that our slope is equal to 0. So we're not moving up or down. The slope is 0. So looking at these here, the slope is positive. So I expect this function to be increasing. Here my slope is negative. So I expect it to be decreasing. Here the slope is positive. So I expect it to be increasing. Here the slope is negative. So I expect it to be decreasing. Here the slope is 0. So we have that constant function. It's not going up or down, it's just a nice horizontal, we're constantly equal to 2. And then also same here, this would be a constant function. It's not going up or down, it's not increasing or decreasing. Okay, so hopefully that serves as review. We're going to actually see this action increasing, decreasing, and constant when we go graph them. So let's go ahead and cut to that. Make sure I find the right form here. So again, when we go graph this, we correctly said that m is equal to 3/2 here, and the y-intercept is 0, -1. So the way we graph this is we start at the solution point 0, -1, and then the slope is telling me to move up 3 and over 2. There's my next solution point. Up 3 and over 2. Or double negative, we can go down 3 and back 2. And so there would be our graph with some nice solution points, right? 0, negative 1, looks like 2, 2, looks like 4, 5, and it looks like we have negative 2, negative 5 as nice solution points on that graph. So pretty solid ground. Here, we correctly identified the slope as being negative 3/4 and the y-intercept being 0, negative 5. So I'd start at 0, negative 5, and then the slope's basically telling me to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. Or we can go up 3 and back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 3 and back 4. Right? And then there would be our line represented by that. Here the slope is 2, but in a fractional sense that's 2 over 1. The y-intercept is 0, 1. So we're going to start at 0, 1, go up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1, or down 2 and back 1. So there would be our line for f of x equals 2x plus 1. Here the slope is negative 4 over 1, and we're crossing the y-axis at 0, 3. So we start at 0, 3, we go down 4 and over 1, down 4 and over 1, or we can go up 4 and back 1. And so there would be that line. Negative 4x plus 3. And then, of course, last but not least, right, how do we graph a constant? Well, we already know that the slope is 0, and this is going through 0, 2. And so 1, 2's on the graph, 2, 2's on the graph, 3, 2's on the graph. We have a nice constant line. It's not going up or down. It's constantly equal to 2. And then last but not least, the slope was 0 here, and the y-intercept was 0, negative 3. And so, again, we generate a nice constant line. So that pretty much is the old stuff. The only thing that is new is we're no longer calling y, y. We're calling it f of x. Okay? So more to this story as we build on this. A lot of it will still be review. Maybe it'll be reinforcement of ideas, but we'll continue on in the chapter. But there's pretty much your your intro to it. And it's hopefully just a lot of review of stuff we did way back in Section 2.2. See you guys in the next video.